about culture and how we make it work.
Hi, I'm Carol. Welcome to the very first episode of Culture REfit. Have you ever felt like you have a work personality? One that's really difficult to maintain. You're not alone. Culture REfit is a podcast and the global community for professionals that are tired of having to blend in, and they want to stand out because they are the greatest assets that the workplace has. We're not here to teach you how to fit into a broken mold. We're here to teach you the stories, share strategies. We want to inform you and give you the tools to really rethink, reimagine, and really re-engineer the workplace so it's a place where your professional assets are really celebrated. We believe that our cultural identities, where we come from, our values, what's important to us, this is an invitation to join this movement. We want to make sure that our collective identities are our greatest professional assets. We want to make sure that each person walks away with a tip, a tool, an inspiration, or just a laugh. That's what Culture REfit is. I wanted to begin the conversation by introducing two colleagues on the team. So, want to bring into the conversation, Shirley? Can you tell us about your cultural identities and your role in the project?
First, let me just say thank you for having me here. Thank you so much. And hello to the audience. My name is Shirley, and I'm here as the copywriter and someone who also wants to share this mindset with Carol, share this idea of having a world in which we can also be ourselves in our workplace and without erasing part of ourselves or leaving it at home.
So I like to ask people about their cultural identities. Can you share yours and what values are important to you?
Since I've been raised here, but I was born in Angola, I've been trying to figure out how is it for me to navigate between these two worlds. I don't know if you feel the same, because I know that you just came to Lisbon, but you weren't born and raised here. And it feels like you are navigating between two worlds and you are in the middle. So how do you figure it out? How do you do it? So I'm informed by my culture. I love the music, the food, the traditions. And I do have that at home, and Lisbon is a multicultural space. So we have a lot of people from marginalized and racialized communities, but we are not in the city center. So it's like you can see your people and you can be with your people, but there are certain spaces in which you will see us more than others. So it's like when we are talking about some specific places, you will be or feel more celebrated than other ones.
One of the things I'm always fascinated about is how cultures, we don't really even know what a culture is until we move into another space.
Yeah.
So it feels like water, we're swimming around in this glass. And so noticing what culture is very much when you're placed in a different environment. And so coming from the US to London to now Portugal, I get reminded about, well, does this make sense? This feels a little weird. Why do they do it this way?
Even if you are at your own place and the place that in which you were born, you probably were like, okay, culture is just part of my everyday today life. It's something that comes natural to me.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are outside, it's like, no, this is what people think of me. This is what identifies me the most. This is what makes me feel at home. So this is really funny to me, because you then get the chance to value the most things that you usually don't really pay that much attention, because you have your families there, your friends are there, you are used to talk like that, you are used to see people like you. And when you are outside of it, you realize that the culture that you have, the thing that you were born with or the one that you earned, is what gives you strength to navigate the day-to-day life. So.
Yeah. We also want to talk about the intersections of identity.
Yeah.
So you're a woman of a different age than me.
Yeah.
There are probably other identities that intersect. Can you share a little bit more about some of your other intersections and how they show up in this space?
So for my queer community, hello, this is my my reveal. So as a Black woman, I'm also a queer Black woman. So this is something that I can't leave behind when I'm talking with you, when I'm talking with you, when I'm at home, at the university, at work. And this is something that informs me and leads me to places, and the way in which I sit in different places, I do need to have this in consideration. I don't know if you have felt this. As you were saying, you also have your intersectionalities. And I do feel that we, specifically Black people, so shout out to Black community, specifically Black people in Europe or mainly white countries or places.
Across the African diaspora.
Yeah, thank you. We really need to sometimes split our identities to fit in more and to feel like we are not being a burden. What inspires me the most, I think, that it's the idea of having a community, because I feel that with the internet, and I probably think that you probably feel it too, with the internet and with all these digital worlds that we are creating, people feel more lonely. So I do have this need to, one, be with like-minded people, to be the like-minded people that other people like, such as you, may need. And I feel that cultural refit brings us together.
I completely agree. One of the things that I want to dig into is when people are from a different country and they either have to work across cultures or they're placed in a different country, and the intersections of their identity. You know, there are so many countries, Brazil, Africa, Asia, where young people are the global majority. They're the ones that are really going to be changing things. And so the intersection of not only nationality and the country that you're in, but how you think as a young person is really interesting to me. And I want us to unpack that and see what we can learn from it, because it's all new territory. You know, with AI, we now have to think about what is the right job, what is the right education, what have we been told? Because everything we've been told is now kind of thrown up in the air and doesn't apply because we're in a new world. So now I want to also introduce the ringleader and initiator of CultureFit and our personal relationship, Bruno.
Oh, hi, Carolina, Carol Bella. I'm so happy to be here. We've been cooking this moment for a couple of months, and I'm learning a lot in the process. And I'm really happy to be here to share a little bit what we've been doing, what we want to do, and also to learn from you as well. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. Can you share a little bit more about your role and what inspired you to be part of this project?
Okay, so I'm here to help to facilitate, to create, to open space to communicate and exchange. And I'm from Brazil, so I already have a different rhythm in communications from everything that I worked and learned around the travels that I was able to do, works that I did in different countries, different continents. So it was always different opportunities to learn from different cultures. And I also have backgrounds in my family from Portugal and Italy. So mixing with Brazil is an interesting perspective that I've been understanding that I have. So I'm understanding how to share that and how to learn as well from other cultures. So I'm here to help you to communicate your dreams, your ideas, also to learn and to share Livre Pares, which is our social good agency here in Portugal that connects with the values of CultureRefit. So it makes sense for me to be here trying to learn and share with you.
Awesome. So I love talking about intersections. As people will learn, you're not just one thing, you're many different things that have informed who you are. Can you share a little bit more about other identities that you have acquired or learned, or who you are and why they're important to you.
Yes, I'm a gay man from Brazil, living in Portugal. So I'm immigrant living here, understanding this culture that is connected so many different angles and some different stories. So it's interesting for me to learn from that point of view, and also seeing how Lisbon is such multicultural a city that I can learn some different aspects, like every interaction that I have working with the municipality of Lisbon, working with the country, different areas of the country, and even Europe. It's a way to understand how can we be more together in this path of learning and exchanging.
Yeah, Lisbon is such an inspirational place to start this project.
That's true.
We want it to be global, and we will have different messages around the world. But this is such a great container of learning and great container of people that live and work here from all over the world. The neighborhood that we're filming this in now is an inspiration because they're very proud of the 85 different nationalities. So not only age and gender and orientation, but nationality and neurodiversity will be the things that we'll be unpacking and getting a better sense of within the container of Lisbon. So I'm excited about that.
Me too. And just hearing from you now, it brings the understanding that culture is supposed to be fun as
Yes.
well. Like we need to bring music, poetry, learning, understanding, and how to bring that to the workplace. It's what we want to understand and want to talk with you during this whole season, because we now understand that working is the hours that you spend working. You can bring the fun aspect to it. And that's how we want to deal with, especially from my generation, from millennials, that we understood that we saw boomers like complaining about, oh, I've been working my whole life, I'm not satisfied. So when we got to the working place, we saw, okay, I don't want to do the same. I want to change the script. I want to try different things. And we are, I think, was the first generation to be a little bit more braver about doing that. And I'm still understanding the reflex of it, but I still feel that I know how to have fun while doing it, and I want to share that and learn about with other people that also know how to have fun, but still follow the rules that we are understanding to have a good living, communication, a good day-to-day basis. So that's it. I think.
I love it. Looking forward to it. I'm excited.
One of the main values that I feel working with you and working with this team is important for me was the freedom to create, and the freedom to hear each other, bring empathy to the workplace. And now I want to hear from you. Are the important values that you want to share, that you are bringing to this project, that you want to learn, that you want to share?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I could relate when Shirley was sharing hers is that I live in a gray space. So I am a US born person from Jamaican immigrant parents. And so my immigrant parents came to the US with certain values that Jamaicans hold around having 7 jobs and working hard. And those that have spent the time and the energy to immigrate to a different place to raise a family push very hard to make sure that you are having a successful life. I grew up in an all-white neighborhood that my father had to go to court to be allowed in.
Wow.
And so growing up, not white, but not Black American, but not really Jamaican, left me in a gray place. So I needed to explore and understand what culture meant, because I didn't fit in any of the waters that we swim in very naturally. I felt not comfortable in any of them. So it made me observe culture in a way that still inspires me to do this work. I have a daughter that experienced neurodiversity in her teenage years. And so we think about neurodiversity and how it's shifted and how much we've learned and we think about the people that are now, experiencing autism, bipolar, ADHD, and all of those things in a way that was not how I grew up. And to be a parent experiencing that gave me a lens around what that cultural identity meant to her, not only going to school, but now being a very successful leader in her own right, and those strengths, and seeing people from the strengths that they have and how they navigate workplaces and what fit really means when you think differently and you have different strengths. Also being a woman of a certain age, we're not going to discuss my age, but I'm of an age where civil rights were just entering into the workplace, where feminism and the Ms. generation came in, and I was told you needed to look a certain way and to dress a certain way. And I was definitely not supposed to have hair that looked like this when I was growing up in the industry. You had to have your arms covered and stockings on and heels, and you were taught to be in a patriarchal workplace, patriarchal society, and do the rules, and you were taught the rules of navigating business and the workplace.
And no one explaining why those rules were there.
No, they just were.
And you needed to follow.
You needed to follow. And as I progressed in my career, I saw so many women like me that made it to the corner offices and did all the things that we were told to do, and were not happy, and didn't feel fulfilled. We felt burnt out. I raised my daughter as a single parent, which is a whole other cultural identity. I raised her in New York City, which has its own cultural identity. So many of those things really made me observe culture in a very particular way. I wanted to help people navigate the space. I wanted to help people rethink it. And with culture, it makes you question, well, why is this? Does it always have to be this way? Why do we do the things that we do? And why is this right? And why is this wrong? And is it really?
That's amazing to hear, because I feel this project, the CultureRefit project, is a place to create a safe space where we can ask those questions, where we can hear from different point of views, but feeling free to ask why is like this? Why should I do like this? And maybe there's a reason to it, right? But it's interesting to see how the diversity of our team, and also from the guests that are coming up, will reflect that.
Yeah.
That it's possible to rethink, to redesign, to try to do things different.
Yeah.
It's okay to try to do things in another way and to try new things. And I really feel that through this whole season, that's what we want to talk about. Okay, we have a safe space to talk about changes and what's good, what is we should left behind, what is able to bring for another culture, and understand how it fits.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just learning about ourselves. We think about burnout as something we need to go on vacation to fix. And one of the things that we're learning is that burnout is a misalignment of values. So sometimes we're burnt out because we're frustrated being in the system. So we're hoping that people will learn more about themselves, and that helps to navigate spaces where you're working and collaborating. Just more self-awareness of who you are and the many layers that make us who we are as humans.
So Carolina, the intersection of personal culture and workplace culture is important, and is a topic of conversation. Why do you feel it's an important topic for you?
I started being a student of demographics and marketing. I came from the magazine world, working at Essence and then Vibe and New York Times, and I was passionate about the demographics of the changes and how these different groups really impacted brands and culture. And what shifted for me was I was asked to lead a executive search firm, and
Amazing.
I specialized in Black, Asian, and Hispanic talent in the marketing and advertising industry. And the output of marketing and brands really are real reflections of culture, how we see Coca-Cola, how we see Unilever, how we see Expedia. All these different brands impact consumers all over the world and our culture. And I realized that the people that were creating these brands were not reflective of the demographics in the world and how they were changing. And I wanted to be part of what that change was. So that led me on a journey to really understand culture fit in the workplace, because I would have candidates say that, oh, this culture is not a fit for me. I would have recruiters say that person is not a culture fit. And it made me question, what is a culture fit? And if we need to create output products, services that provide value for a variety of different types of customers, what kind of culture is a fit for the changes in demographics? And so I shifted from really wanting to understand consumer behavior to understand organizations and workplaces and what is culture and how people want to work. Remote work is never going to be a done conversation. We're still struggling with that. How jobs will change with AI will be a struggle. How we're discovering and unpacking the layers of who we are will continue to evolve. People are just getting comfortable with describing all of their neurodiversity, all of their sexual orientations, all of their preferences. Being a parent is changing. The role of the gender roles, particularly for men and their place in the workplace, living place, is constantly changing. We're seeing a lot of articles about how women are redefining their trajectory, how many kids they want to have in China is a challenge. How do they want to get married in the US? That's changing. And all of that affects the workplace.
So, Carol, tell me something. Why the name CultureRefit?
The fit of culture is a conversation. Something you have to mold, you have to fit into, you have to bend and mold yourself physically, mentally, emotionally. You have to fit into a mold. And I want to disrupt that. I want to be a disruptor or be a part of a community. I need your help to disrupt.
Let's go.
And I think it's the perfect time. It's a perfect time to rethink. Is very important to everything that we do. Reimagine, re-engineer, really redo, readjust. All of the re's fit into the workplace right now. So we may end up with things that serve us well, but there might be things that no longer serve the workplace. And this is the perfect intersection of time to really challenge the assumptions that we have about everything. Does it take 8 hours to do work? Why is it 9 to 5? Why do we need to sit in one room? Do we all need to sit in chairs? How do we make decisions? So there are many aspects that are culturally driven that were created that I think it's a great time to challenge.
Who is this we keep talking about? Like, for which kind of people is this
Yes.
podcast to? Who is your audience? Who do you want to connect with?
Yes. So we want CultureRefit to be inclusive of people around the world. Really important. Whether you are a leader or an employee, an individual contributor, you may be working in a restaurant, you may be on a construction site, you may be in a Fortune FTSE 100 company, and you're trying to figure out how to navigate it. Anywhere that there is work being done, anywhere that we're collaborating, now we collaborate virtually across countries. So those are the people that we want to talk to.
We have been talking a lot about culture, and I'm curious to know, because Culture REfit gets us into the world culture in a different side. So what is something that you still need to learn about culture? What is a question that you still have about culture?
The big learning experience was to learn to be instead of do. So from an Eastern perspective, very much so, the idea of mindfulness, the idea of Buddhism is about being present. And so it's helped me to not so much worry, but not spend my energy focused on the future,
Yes.
but focused on the here and now, which reduces stress.
And it's not that easy to do. So
No, it's
I'll
not
give you
easy to
that.
do. When it comes to the workplace, we think about, especially in the US, when is it getting done? How long is it going to take you to get my food? When is the service going to be here? I hear a lot of Westerners, complain and get confused about like, what is customer service? He didn't respond quick enough. I didn't get this call. I need to get it done tomorrow. When is this project going to be? When am I going to get this draft? So everything is very much focused on the timeliness and am I going to get it in the, when in the future is this going to happen?
Okay, so tells us a little bit about the future topics that we'll be seeing here in this new podcast.
So we're starting with season 1. So season 1, we wanted to kind of dig into the foundation of culture. We're going to kick off right at the beginning of Chinese New Year. So we wanted to take advantage of really learning about Asian leadership and how that shows up differently from Western leadership and Chinese culture in a very powerful way. The Year of the Fire Horse is super important. We're just finishing the snake, so we wanted to be able to have fun with that and get into the Fire Horse for season 1. And then we wanted to spend some time unpacking, what does culture mean? What are the behaviors of culture from the different behaviors that show up? Communication style, relationship, how we make decisions. So we have a guest that's coming on that is an expert at that. So we're going to really learn more about what culture means and then really unpacking the workplace culture as well.
I love that.
So we want to give you some foundational things in the first season, but for the fun part, we always want to add some fun.
Of course.
So I'm excited about our people on the street interviews. We're going to be starting with Lisbon and hopefully going to other cities around the world, but we want to hear from all of you. So we'll be inviting you on the street, wherever we are, to share, what does culture mean to you? What your tips are. We want to hear from people about the tips that they have for culture in the workplace and what their questions are. So we want to invite you all in to the conversation on all social media platforms. You can find us on Instagram at CultureRefit, on YouTube, on Apple Music and Spotify. We want this to be a community and a conversation. So we want to hear tips from all of our guests. And let's start with the team.
Okay.
What's your favorite tip to navigating workplace cultures?
Okay, this may be an odd take, but this is just my personal opinion, so please don't fight me. But if you ever feel the need to leave a workplace because you feel unsatisfied, because you feel that you are not being valued enough, because you feel that you don't earn enough, please leave that place, because it's probably because you really don't belong there. I know that we all suffer from our insecurities in the workplace. Do I fit here? Am I good at doing my job? Should I keep doing this? But I do think that the capitalism and the way that we are living our lives, it's always a burden to us. It gets in your bones, it gets in your head, and the way that you perceive yourself, it's usually not the real way that you are perceived by others. Probably you are just drained. So if you ever get the chance to leave a toxic workplace, a toxic environment place, please leave, because I don't know, you probably have some really messed up experience such as I had, and now I've been navigating between this idea, okay, I do need to have a way to earn my income and to pay for my bills, but at what cost, you know? And it's so difficult for us, especially the Gen Z community, to be living in a place in the present in which we can really dream about a future, because you know that you will not be able to get your own house, your own car, and to be able to have this all without losing like this, your social life, your way of going to your work. You know, it's not that easy to balance work life, and it's so interesting because we have different ages and we come from different times in which we can actually be here having this conversation and sharing our experience, because this is not that usual, you know.
So what is the tip that you have for our audience? What is the dica
Well,
that you
my
have?
dica is that in the workplace and dealing with colleagues and maybe leaders is to have empathy in the communication area. Because even if you're in a leadership position, it's important to think how you're going to share what you were asking for someone, how you are giving feedback. It's important to feel it and understand that you don't know everything, and it's still important to think before saying it. Not because you have a lot of experience, you just say it I know how to do it. It's interesting to think a little bit each case, each time you're going to talk to someone, to understand what is the goal of that conversation, and to create a script on your mind of what you want to say. This is important, and people understand and feel that you thought about it. And when people understand that you thought about how you're going to talk to them instead of just delivering a message, it changes the conversation and the results as well. So that's my dica, to have empathy and to think about how we want to share the information.
And as an extrovert, it's much easier for an introvert to do that than us extroverts. So we need you in our lives.
Well, I'm
Thank
here
you.
now.
We talked about culture not being something you can see.
Yeah.
You know, it's like this clear water. We kind of live in it. So in the workplace, it's all of the unwritten rules. And so as an individual, my tip would be to, first of all, take a deep breath.
We will try.
When we're triggered. Because when there'll always be something someone says, how we feel about ourselves, or the circumstance that triggers us. We feel it in our bodies. So get used to feeling what being triggered feels like in the workplace. And when you see something that doesn't sit well, before we make assumptions about whether it's right or wrong, or whether it's bad or good, sit with it and say, is this always true? Is there another way? What am I assuming? And is this culture? Is this cultural? Yours or the other person's? And so it might be how someone socializes with you. Looking someone in the eye is cultural. Using your hands is cultural. And it might feel uncomfortable to one group and very welcoming in another. And so before we make assumptions, breathe. It's a brain function, we'll talk about it. And say, is this always true? Am I making assumption about this group of people So, Shirley, thank you so much for being part of this conversation and most importantly, being part of this project. We're all looking forward to hearing more about your story, your insights, and your dicas.
I will give my best, and thank you for having me again. Thank you so much. And I do think that you will love this project and it will resonate with you. So please stay around.
Well, thank you so much for participating in this conversation. You'll see Bruno co-hosting and Shirley co-hosting. We're going to have different voices in this CultureRefit platform. So you'll see more of Bruno in the future. But thank you for this conversation. Thank you for joining us. We invite you to subscribe on social media, on podcast platforms, and stay on top of our upcoming episodes. We want you to be part of this conversation. And if you need some inspiration in the morning before you go to work, check out our Spotify CultureRefit playlist. And if you have contributions, let us know. We want to make it fun and bring you joy.